During a party game, my ex-girlfriend looked across the circle, held my gaze, and said, "I dare you to kiss me." Everyone went quiet. Not the polite kind of quiet, either. This was the kind where 12 adults suddenly became fascinated by the same disaster and didn't want to scare it away. Natalie Pierce sat 3 feet from me on the rug, one knee tucked beneath her, wearing dark jeans and a soft blue blouse, with the sleeves rolled to her elbows. Her brown hair was shorter than I remembered. Her eyes weren't. Those were still capable of finding every part of me I'd failed to lock down. "Natalie," our friend Brooke warned softly. "What?" Natalie asked without looking away from me. "It's a dare." There were several problems with that sentence. The biggest was that Natalie and I hadn't spoken in 8 months. The second was that I still knew exactly how she kissed. And the third was that, judging by the slight tremble in her fingers around her wine glass, this wasn't a joke. My name is Owen Bennett. I was 26 years old that night, and I made my living recording other people saying what they meant. Podcasts, commercials, audiobooks, anything that required a microphone and a soundproof room. In my personal life, I had somehow developed the opposite skill. I could take a feeling, bury it beneath reasonable explanations, and make silence sound almost noble. That was how I'd lost Natalie. 11 minutes before her dare, I'd been in Brooke and Camden's kitchen, opening a bottle of ginger ale and pretending my ex-girlfriend wasn't standing 10 feet away. It was Camden's birthday. He and Brooke had invited a dozen friends to their apartment, the same third-floor walk-up where Natalie and I had once spent an entire Sunday helping them assemble a dining table backward. I'd known she might be there. That was what I told myself anyway. In reality, I'd spent 40 minutes choosing a shirt that said I was doing well without looking like I wanted anyone to notice I was doing well. Then Natalie arrived, and every button felt dishonest. She stepped through the doorway carrying a bakery box and laughing at something Brooke had said. When she saw me by the kitchen island, her smile faltered for half a second. Then it came back smaller. "Hi, Owen." 2 words. Perfectly ordinary. My entire body reacted like someone had struck a tuning fork against my ribs. "Hey, Nat." Her eyes dropped briefly to my shirt. "You still wear blue when you're nervous." I glanced down. "You still open with an accusation." "It's an observation." "From 8 months and 10 feet away?" 9 feet, she said. "Approximately." There she was. Not the softened version I'd been carrying around in my head. The real Natalie, quick, exact, and just amused enough to make me want to earn the rest of her smile. She moved to the counter beside me and set down the box. Not across from me. Beside me. Close enough that I caught the faint citrus scent of her shampoo. "What did you bring?" I asked. "Lemon cake." "You hate lemon cake." "Camden loves it." "You once described lemon frosting as furniture polish with ambition." She looked at me then, and for one dangerous second, we were us again. "You remembered that?" I remembered everything. Instead, I twisted the cap off my bottle. It was a weirdly aggressive review. Her smile faded at the edges. "I wasn't sure you'd come tonight," she said. "I wasn't sure you were back." That landed between us more sharply than I intended. Natalie had left Chicago for Portland the previous summer after accepting an 8-month contract with a small design studio. She created illustrations and packaging art, the kind that made ordinary products feel as if someone had loved them into existence. It was the opportunity she'd wanted for years. I had wanted it for her, too. The problem was that I'd been helping my father recover from shoulder surgery while trying to keep my new recording business alive. I couldn't leave. Natalie didn't ask me to, and I didn't ask her to stay. We stood in my apartment on her last night, both of us trying so hard not to be selfish that we became cruel in the most polite way possible. Maybe distance would make things harder. Maybe we were already under too much pressure. Maybe a clean break was kinder. Neither of us said, "Fight for me," so we didn't. "I got back last week," she said. I waited, because surely there was another sentence coming. Something like, "I meant to call." There wasn't. "Welcome home," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Thank you." Camden walked into the kitchen carrying a stack of paper cards and the expression of a man about to make everyone regret loving him. Living room, he announced. Birthday requirement. What is that? I asked. A game Brooke bought. Brooke appeared behind him. It's not my fault. The review said it was sophisticated. The box says truth, dare, or drink, Natalie said. Brooke winced. The reviews lied. I should have left then. I had driven myself. I had an early recording session the next morning. I possessed both a coat and free will. Then Natalie brushed past me on her way to the living room, her fingertips grazing the back of my hand. It could have been accidental. The way she looked over her shoulder wasn't, so I stayed. We sat in a loose circle around the coffee table. Camden went first and confessed that he'd once pretended to enjoy a 4-hour documentary because Brooke's father was watching it. Brooke admitted she had known. Someone had to text their high school crush. Someone else drank rather than reveal the last person they'd searched online. There was laughter, groaning, the easy cruelty of close friends who knew exactly where the harmless bodies were buried. Then the bottle spun toward Natalie. Camden read from a card. Choose someone in the room, ask them a question, or give them a dare. They can refuse, but they have to tell you why. That sounds poorly designed, I said. It sounds wonderfully designed, Brooke replied. Natalie stared at the card for a moment. The room waited. Then she lifted her eyes to mine. I knew that look. I'd seen it before job interviews, before she showed a client work she cared about, and once before she told me she loved me. It was courage with nowhere left to hide. Owen, she said. My mouth went dry. She placed her wine glass on the table as if she didn't trust herself to hold it. I dare you to kiss me. The silence that followed seemed to push us closer. I could have laughed it off. I could have refused. I could have protected us both with one of my well-practiced, reasonable answers. Instead, I stood. Natalie's breath caught. I crossed the small space and stopped in front of her. She looked up at me, and beneath the challenge in her expression, I saw something that made my chest ache. Hope. Stand up, I said quietly. She did. We were close enough now that the room disappeared at the edges. I could see the tiny gold flecks in her brown eyes. I could see her pulse beating at the base of her throat. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Are you refusing? No. Then what are you doing? Making sure. Of what? That you're not asking because 12 people are watching. Natalie glanced around as if she'd genuinely forgotten them. Then she looked back at me and stepped closer, leaving barely an inch between us. I'm asking because you're watching. That was it. I touched one hand to her cheek and kissed her. It wasn't wild or careless. It was worse. It was familiar. Her fingers curled into the front of my shirt, and the first gentle contact became something warmer, deeper, full of 8 months' worth of restraint collapsing at once. I remembered the shape of her mouth. She remembered the way I held her. Someone near the couch whispered, "Oh, wow." Natalie smiled against my lips, and that tiny movement nearly undid me. When we finally pulled apart, the room stayed silent. I kept my hand at her waist. She didn't let go of my shirt. That answer your question? I murmured. Not even close. A nervous laugh moved through the circle, but Natalie wasn't laughing. Her eyes had turned bright. I didn't come tonight for Camden's birthday, she whispered. From behind us, Camden muttered, a little hurtful, but continue. Natalie took a shaky breath. I came because I needed to see you, she said, and because I need to know if ending us was the biggest mistake of my life. No one in the living room moved. Natalie was still gripping my shirt. My hand was still at her waist. Behind us, someone set a glass down with painful care. Brooke finally stood. I think we all need cake. Immediately, Camden agreed. In the kitchen, with the door closed. The room emptied so fast it would have been funny under any other circumstances. When we were alone, Natalie released my shirt and smoothed the wrinkled fabric with both palms. Sorry, she murmured. For kissing me or ruining my shirt? Your shirt was always doomed. I caught one of her hands before she could pull away. Natalie. She went still. You can't kiss me like that, tell me our breakup might have been a mistake, and then apologize for wrinkles. I know. Do you? Her fingers turned beneath mine until our palms met. I had a better speech, she said. It involved complete sentences and significantly less public humiliation. You dared me to kiss you in front of 12 people? I panicked. That's how you panic now? Portland changed me. Despite everything, I laughed. Her expression softened at the sound, and that hurt more than the silence had. Can we go somewhere? She asked. I want to talk to you without Camden listening through a door. From the kitchen came a muffled thump, followed by Camden saying, I dropped a fork. Natalie raised an eyebrow. Very stealthy, I called. Thank you. I found our coats. We escaped down the back stairs while everyone remained in the kitchen pretending not to watch through the window. Outside, February had turned the sidewalk silver with old snow. The air was cold enough to clear the wine and adrenaline from my head, though not the memory of Natalie's mouth. She wrapped her scarf twice around her neck. Where are we going? I asked. The Blue Hour? I stared at her. What? That was our first date. I remember. Do you? She gave me a pointed look. You ordered coffee at 10 at night, talked about microphones for 40 minutes, and then wondered why you couldn't sleep. In my defense, you asked what kind I used. I was flirting. You should have been clearer. I touched your arm 6 times. I assumed you were emphasizing your points. She laughed, and the sound drifted into the cold between us. The Blue Hour was a 24-hour diner 3 blocks away. Its neon clock still buzzed in the front window, and the same faded blue booths lined the wall. We slid into our old booth. I knew it was ours because Natalie had once carved a tiny star beneath the table while waiting for me to work up the nerve to kiss her. I discovered it on our 3rd anniversary. The waitress brought 2 menus. Coffee, she asked. Decaf, Natalie and I said together. We looked at each other. The waitress sighed. I'll give you a minute. Once she left, the humor slipped away. Natalie folded her hands on the table. I didn't know how to call you. You had my number. That wasn't the hard part. I looked toward the window. Our reflections hovered faintly over the dark street, sitting together like nothing had changed. You could have tried. I said, I did, a lot. I didn't get any calls because I didn't make it past typing your name. Anger rose in me, sharp mostly because it had spent 8 months covering grief. So you thought showing up at a party and daring me to kiss you would be easier? No, I thought it might be the only way I couldn't lose my nerve. That's not fair. I know. You keep saying that. Because I know I handled this badly. And I didn't? Her eyes lifted. I leaned back, dragging a hand over my face. That last night, I acted like we were discussing the expiration date on a carton of milk. I stood there saying long distance would be complicated when what I meant was that the thought of waking up without you made me feel sick. Natalie's breath caught. I thought you were relieved, she said. Relieved? You'd been exhausted for months. Your dad needed you. The studio was barely breaking even. Whenever I brought up Portland, you said it was a great opportunity? It was. But you never said you wanted me to stay. The old ache opened cleanly. My mother spent my whole childhood making people prove they loved her, I said. If my father went out with friends, she'd say he was choosing them over her. If I wanted to spend Christmas with his family, she'd cry until I changed my mind. I promised myself I would never do that to anyone. Natalie reached across the table. Her fingertips rested beside my hand, not quite touching. Asking isn't the same as manipulating, she said. I know that now. Do you? The echo of my own question landed gently. I turned my hand over. She slipped hers into it. No, I admitted. Not completely. Her thumb brushed across my knuckles. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, I wanted you to ask me. I wanted you to want to stay without being asked. I did want to. Then why did you go? Because wanting 2 things at once doesn't make either of them less real. I looked at her. She swallowed. I loved you. I also loved the work, and I was terrified that if I turned it down someday, I'd blame you for a choice you never asked me to make. That would have been worse. Yes. The waitress returned, saw our joined hands, and placed 2 decaf coffees on the table without asking whether we were ready to order. Pie? She offered. Cherry, I said. Chocolate, Natalie said. We both paused. 1 of each, she decided. When the waitress left, I tightened my fingers around Natalie's. Did you stop? I asked. She knew exactly what I meant. Her eyes went glossy, but she didn't look away. No. The word left her almost soundlessly. My heart began beating harder. Neither did I said. Her chin trembled once. I came around the table before I had time to reconsider. Natalie shifted to make room and I sat beside her in the booth. She turned toward me, one knee pressing between mine. You should know, she whispered, that the party kiss was supposed to be shorter. Poor planning. It got away from me. Could happen to anyone. Her hand rose to my face, tracing the edge of my jaw as if confirming I was real. I missed this, she said. My face? You being impossible when I'm trying to say something sincere. I missed you insulting me with affection. She smiled, then leaned her forehead against mine. The closeness was almost unbearable. I could feel her breath against my lips, warm and uneven. I missed you every day, she said. I kissed her before fear could translate that sentence into anything safer. This kiss wasn't for an audience. It was slow and quiet, her palm curved against my cheek, my arm around her waist. No dare, no shocked friends, just a choice. When we parted, Natalie stayed tucked against me. We can't pretend the last 8 months didn't happen, I said. I don't want to. And one kiss doesn't fix what we broke. 2 kisses, she corrected. I looked at her. Accuracy matters. There she is. The pie arrived. Natalie moved back to her side of the booth, but she kept one leg stretched beneath the table until her boot rested against mine. We traded bites like we used to. She stole most of my cherry filling. I took the chocolate crust she always left behind. It felt dangerously easy. That frightened me more than the hard parts. What happens now? I asked. Her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. We talk, she said. We are talking. I mean, after tonight. Something in her expression changed. It was small, but I heard hesitation the way I heard a bad splice in an audio track. When do you go back? I asked. Natalie set down her spoon. I fly to Portland on Sunday. 4 days. I pulled my foot away from hers. You said you were back. I am. I came back. For a visit? My contract ended. The studio offered me a permanent position. The diner suddenly felt too bright. And you accepted? Not yet. But you're considering it. Yes. I stared at our half-eaten slices of pie. When did they need an answer? Monday morning. I let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. So this is what? Research? No. You came here to find out whether I'm worth turning down Portland? I came because I couldn't make the decision without knowing if there was still an us to come home to. I slid out of the booth. Natalie caught my wrist. Owen, please. I looked down at her hand, then at her face. 8 months ago, I'd refused to ask her to stay because I was afraid love would become pressure. Now she was offering me 4 days to decide whether to ask. And the worst part was that I already knew what I wanted. I didn't leave. I wanted to. Walking away would have let me turn hurt into certainty, and certainty had always felt safer than asking another question. But Natalie was still holding my wrist. So I sat down. I'm not research, I said. I know. And I'm not going to audition against a job. I'm not asking you to. It feels like you are. She released me and pressed both hands around her coffee cup. I shouldn't have waited to tell you. No, you shouldn't have. I was afraid that if I led with Portland, we'd have the same conversation we had 8 months ago. We might. Then let's do it differently. I studied her face. How? By saying the parts that scare us. That sounds terrible. It does. And healthy. Disgusting, isn't it? A reluctant smile pulled at my mouth. Natalie leaned forward. The work there matters to me, so do you. I don't know what I'm choosing yet, but I didn't come back to make you responsible for my decision. Then what do you need from me? The truth. I stared down at our 2 slices of pie. The truth was embarrassingly simple. I want you to stay. She went very still. Every instinct I developed since childhood told me to soften it, to add conditions, to make sure she understood she didn't owe me anything. I forced myself to keep going. I want you in Chicago, I said. I want you showing up at my studio with lunch because you forgot I already ate. I want your shoes blocking my front door, and your terrible lemon reviews and Sunday mornings when you steal all the blankets. I did not steal them. You surrendered them. You wrapped yourself in a burrito. It was January. I want that, I said. I want you. But I don't want you staying if it means you wake up 6 months from now and hate what you gave up. Tears shone in her eyes. That, she whispered, is what I needed you to say before I left. I know. And I should have asked you to say it. I know. She reached across the table again. This time, I met her halfway. We left the diner after midnight. On the sidewalk, Natalie tucked herself against my side, and my arm went around her automatically. At her car, we stopped beneath the streetlight. Come home with me, she said. The invitation hit with enough force to make me forget the cold. Then she added, not like that. Oh, her mouth curved. You sound disappointed. I was trying to be respectful. You can be respectful and disappointed. I contain multitudes. She stepped closer and slid her hands beneath the open edges of my coat. I'm staying at my sister's place. She's out of town and I don't want tonight to end yet. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to follow her upstairs, sit on the couch we'd picked out together for her sister 3 years ago, and let familiarity carry us past every hard question. Instead, I covered her hands with mine. If I come up, we're going to stop talking. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. Probably. And I need to know we're not just remembering how good we were at the easy parts. She looked back into my eyes. That was annoyingly mature. I regret it already. Natalie rose onto her toes and kissed the corner of my mouth, lingering there. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow what? Take me on a date? We've been on hundreds. No, take me on a first date. You know me now in ways you didn't the first time. I want to know who you became while I was gone. That question followed me home. The next afternoon, Natalie arrived at my recording studio at 6, wearing a green wool coat and carrying 2 paper bags. The studio occupied the second floor above a used bookstore. It consisted of a control room, 2 recording booths, and an office that still smelled faintly of the previous tenant's incense. She lifted the bags. Dinner. I already ate. Her smile broke wide. You missed me. Painfully. She had brought dumplings from the tiny restaurant near my old apartment. We ate them on the floor of the larger booth because my desk had disappeared beneath invoices and cables. Natalie turned slowly, taking in the acoustic panels and suspended microphones. You did this, she said. Mostly, my friend Darius helped install the glass. No, I mean all of it. You used to talk about having your own studio, and now you do. The pride in her voice made me look away. It's not exactly thriving yet, but it's yours. She touched the edge of the mixing console with reverent care. Natalie always understood that making something and believing in it were different kinds of courage. What are you working on? She asked. A children's audiobook. The narrator had to cancel today, so I'm behind. Can I see? I pulled up the illustrated manuscript on my monitor. It was a story about a fox searching for the moon. Natalie read the first page silently, then glanced toward the booth. Let me try. You narrate now? I have a voice. You also panic in front of microphones. That was one wedding toast. You called the groom by the dog's name. They were both named Henry. 10 minutes later, she stood behind the glass wearing oversized headphones. I adjusted the microphone while she watched me through the window. Read from the highlighted line, I said into the talkback. She straightened dramatically. Felix searched every silver stream, but the moon was never there. I winced. Oh, why are you British? It felt literary. He's a fox from Wisconsin. I didn't read the character notes. She tried again, this time warm and soft. Her voice filled my headphones, and suddenly I could imagine children listening beneath blankets. When she finished the page, she looked at me through the glass. How was that? Beautiful. The teasing left her face. I wasn't talking about the recording anymore, and she knew it. I joined her in the booth. The space was built for one person, so when I closed the door, we stood nearly chest to chest. This seems professionally inappropriate, she said. You're not an employee. Good point. Her fingers found the front of my sweater. I brushed her hair behind one ear. I didn't date anyone seriously. The confession came out before I planned it. Natalie searched my face. Neither did I. Did you date casually? Are you asking as my audio engineer? As the man currently trying not to be jealous of hypothetical strangers? One dinner, she said. His name was Graham. He spent most of it explaining blockchain. I hate Graham. You'd have liked him. You both over-explain things when nervous. I do not. You once drew me a diagram of sound waves on a cocktail napkin. That was educational. She smiled, but it faded quickly. I went home and cried afterward, she said. Not because of him, because he walked me to my building and reached for my hand, and all I could think was that it wasn't yours. My thumb traced her cheek. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you so you'll be sorry. Why then? Because you asked for the truth. I kissed her. She leaned into me, pressing me gently back against the padded wall. Her hand slid into my hair and mine settled at her waist. The kiss deepened until the headphones around her neck bumped my chest. She laughed against my mouth. Very romantic, she whispered. State-of-the-art equipment. Is that what you call it? I groaned. You ruined the moment. No, I improved it. I kissed her again to stop her from improving anything else. Later, we walked along the river with hot chocolate warming our hands. Downtown lights trembled across the black water. It felt like a date. Not a replay of an old one, a new one, built by two people who knew exactly how badly they could hurt each other. At the bridge, Natalie stopped. I want us back, she said. My heart kicked hard. Not because I'm lonely, not because being home is familiar. I want the life we had, but I want us to be braver inside it. I set my cup on the stone railing. If you take Portland, can you still want that? Yes. Long distance? If that's what we choose. I stepped close and took both her hands. Then I want us back too. I'm not promising I'll be good at the distance. I'm promising I won't use silence to make decisions for both of us. She exhaled shakily. That sounds like a relationship step. It is. Should we shake on it? I had something else in mind. She smiled and pulled me down to kiss her under the bridge lights. When we separated, she rested her head against my chest. For one whole minute, the future felt possible. Then she said, "There's one more question we have to ask." I looked down at her. "If I take the job," she said, "would you ever consider moving to Portland?" I had spent 8 months imagining how to ask Natalie to stay. It had never occurred to me that she might ask me to go. My first instinct was to say no. Not because I didn't love Natalie, because my father was in Chicago. My studio was in Chicago. Every client I'd fought to keep, every cable I'd run through the walls, every dollar I'd saved to turn 2 neglected rooms into a business, it was all here. Portland felt like a verdict against the life I'd built. Natalie watched me think. That bad? She asked. No. You made the face. What face? The one you made when I suggested painting your bedroom yellow. You called the color fermented sunshine. It was sophisticated. It was mustard. She smiled faintly, but her hands slipped from mine. I caught them again. I can't move now, I said. Her gaze dropped. But you asked if I would ever consider it. She looked up. I could consider it, I continued. I don't know what happens with the studio. I don't know whether my client list survives if I run part of it remotely. My dad's better, but I still handle things for him. I'm not asking you to pack tonight. I know. Do you? Apparently that's our favorite question now. Natalie stepped away and leaned against the bridge railing. I need to explain something without you hearing it as an ultimatum. I'll try. I don't need you to move for me. I need to know that when we imagine a future, I'm not the only person whose life can change shape. That landed harder than I wanted it to. She had always been the flexible one. When my father had surgery, Natalie rearranged client meetings to drive him to physical therapy. When I found the studio space, she spent 3 weekends painting walls and comparing insurance plans. Even before Portland, she had learned the architecture of my life and fitted herself around it. I joined her at the railing. You're right, she blinked. That was fast. I can argue if it would make you more comfortable. Give me a minute to enjoy it. I looked out over the river. When I picture stability, I picture staying still. Same city, same work, same people. Moving feels like losing. And to me, never moving feels like getting trapped. We're inconveniently well matched. The worst. I turned toward her. I don't know whether I can move to Portland, I said. But I can promise I'll seriously explore it. Not pretend to explore it while waiting for you to give up. Her shoulders loosened. And if the answer is no, she asked, then we figure out whether there's another city or two cities for a while, or some version we haven't thought of yet. You'd do long distance? I'd hate long distance. That wasn't my question. Yes. I took a breath. I would do it. I would get on planes. I would schedule calls. I would tell you when I'm scared instead of pretending I'm busy. I'd choose you on purpose. Natalie's eyes filled. I touched her face. But I need that from you, too. You have it. Not yet. You haven't made your decision. She covered my hand with hers. I'm choosing us, she said. The job is a separate choice. I wanted to believe choices could stay that clean. Still, when she kissed me, I kissed her back. We stayed by the river until our drinks went cold. Then we walked to her sister's apartment hand in hand. This time, when Natalie asked me to come upstairs, I said yes. The apartment was dark except for the stove light. Natalie set her keys on the counter and suddenly we were both nervous. It was strange. We had shared beds, showers, flu seasons, rent, and one catastrophic attempt at couples yoga. I knew the small scar near her hip and the spot beneath her ear that made her shiver. But 8 months had placed distance inside all that knowing. She took off her coat. Hi, she said. I smiled. Hi. This is more awkward than our first time. Our first time, you knocked over a lamp. It was poorly placed. It was on a table. She stepped closer. Do you want to stay? There were layers beneath the question. I answered all of them. Yes. Natalie rose onto her toes and put her arms around my neck. I kissed her slowly, giving her room to change her mind. Instead, she pulled me closer. We made it to the couch before stopping, foreheads pressed together, both of us breathing hard. Wait, she whispered. I went still. She traced the collar of my sweater. I don't want tonight to be goodbye disguised as something beautiful. It isn't. You can't know that. I know what it means to me. Her eyes searched mine. What does it mean? That I'm not visiting the past. I brushed my thumb over her lower lip. I'm here with you now. Her expression softened. Say it again, she whispered. I'm here. She kissed me. Later, we lay beneath a quilt on her sister's bed, Natalie curled against my chest. The room was quiet except for the radiator ticking. She drew circles over my ribs. Your heart is still going fast. You've had that effect since the day you corrected my coffee order. You were about to drink whole milk. I'm not lactose intolerant. You complained every time. I was living dangerously. She laughed softly and kissed my shoulder. I held her tighter. This is the part I missed most, she said. I glanced down. Mocking my digestive choices? After, when everything gets quiet and you stop trying to be funny. I never try, it's natural. There, you're doing it again. What do you want me to say? The thing you're not saying. I stared at the ceiling. That used to frustrate me about Natalie. Her refusal to let a joke close a door she wanted open. Now I understood it was one of the ways she loved me. I'm afraid you'll leave Sunday, I admitted, and these 4 days will become the happiest mistake I ever made. She pushed herself up on one elbow. I'm afraid I'll stay, and you'll always wonder whether I chose you freely. I wouldn't. You might. I might worry. So would I. Her hair fell over one shoulder. I tucked it behind her ear. Then what do we do? We stopped treating fear like prophecy. I kissed her forehead. Where was this wisdom 8 months ago? Probably buried under moving boxes. We spent Saturday together, not doing anything dramatic. That was what made it feel important. We bought groceries. Natalie criticized my choice of cereal. I helped her unpack the suitcases she'd left at her sister's place. We cooked pasta and burned the garlic bread because we started kissing against the refrigerator. At my apartment, she discovered I still had her chipped yellow mug. "You hate this mug," she said. "The handle is structurally unsound." "Then why keep it?" I took it from her, set it on the counter, and wrapped my arms around her waist. "Because it was yours." Her eyes closed briefly. She leaned into me, palms flat against my chest. "I left more than a mug," she said. "I know." That night, we made a list. Not promises, questions. Could I sublet the studio's smaller booth? Could she negotiate a delayed start? How often could we afford flights? Would Portland allow her to work remotely for part of each month? Could I test running sessions from there? The list grew across 3 sheets of paper. For the first time, our future looked less like a single locked door and more like a hallway. Sunday arrived too quickly. At the airport drop-off lane, freezing rain dotted the windshield. Natalie's flight boarded in 90 minutes. She sat beside me with her coat zipped and both hands folded around her phone. Neither of us moved. "I can park," I said. "I'll come inside." She shook her head. "If you do, I'll miss the flight." "Accidentally?" "No." The word hurt even though I understood it. She turned toward me. "I'm not flying back because I've chosen Portland," she said. "My things are there. I have to close the apartment and I owe them an answer in the morning." "I know." I meant what I said. "I'm choosing us." "I know." "But that doesn't tell me what you're asking for." I frowned. We talked about long distance, about options. We did. We made a very practical list. "You love lists." "I do." Her voice trembled. "But you told me you wanted me to stay. I need to know if that was a confession or an actual request." My chest tightened. Outside, a horn sounded. A traffic officer waved for the line to move. Natalie reached for my hand. "Don't answer based on what you think is fair," she said. "Don't protect me from my own choice. Just tell me the truth." She held my gaze. "Owen, are you asking me to stay?" "Yes," I said. Natalie's fingers tightened around mine. "I'm asking you to stay in Chicago. I'm asking you to choose mornings in my apartment and your mug on my counter. I'm asking you to build a life with me." Her eyes filled, but I wasn't finished. "If your answer is no, I'm still asking you to choose us. I'll get on planes, I'll edit from Portland. I'll do all the difficult, inconvenient things I was too afraid to do before." The traffic officer knocked on my window. "You need to move," he called. "1 minute," I said. "You have 30 seconds." Natalie laughed through her tears. "I'm trying to declare my love here," I muttered. "I don't think airport security recognizes that exemption." I turned back to her. "I love you," I said. "I never stopped. I want you to stay, but I don't need you to make yourself smaller to prove you love me." A tear slipped down her cheek. I brushed it away. "That," she whispered, "is an actual answer. I've been practicing. It only took 8 months. I'm a slow learner." She unbuckled her seatbelt, leaned across the console, and kissed me. It was wet with tears and awkward because of the gear shift. I held the back of her neck and kissed her as if I could give her something to carry onto the plane. When she pulled away, she kept her forehead against mine. "I love you too," she said, "and I'm going to miss my flight if I don't go." "I know. Ask me one more time." My chest ached. "Stay." Natalie closed her eyes. "I can't," she whispered. "Not today." It hurt, but it didn't feel like rejection. She was going back to finish what she'd started. This time, neither of us was pretending that leaving meant letting go. She opened the door, then turned back. "Answer your phone tomorrow morning." "I will. Even if you're recording." "I'll ruin someone's audiobook." She smiled. "Good." Then she took her suitcase and walked toward the terminal. I stayed until the traffic officer knocked again. Monday morning, I sat alone in my studio with my phone on the mixing console. At 9:12, it rang. "Natalie?" "Hi." Her voice sounded strange, nervous, and breathless. "What did you decide?" "I said no to the permanent position." My heart leaped, then guilt caught it. "Nat, you didn't have to." "Let me finish." I shut my mouth. I told them I loved the work, but I wasn't willing to relocate permanently. Then I proposed a 6-month consulting contract. 2 weeks in Portland, 2 weeks remote each month while I finished the projects I started and trained their new team. And they said yes. I stood so quickly my chair rolled into the wall. They agreed? Apparently asking clearly for what you want sometimes works. That sounds suspiciously healthy. I hated every second. I laughed, pressing the phone tighter to my ear. So you're coming home? My return flight is Friday. 4 days? Yes. That's inconsiderate. You survived 8 months. Poorly. Her voice softened. I know. I looked through the studio glass at the empty booth where she'd read about Felix the Fox. What happens after 6 months? I asked. I don't know. I might keep consulting. I might start my own design practice. Maybe Portland offers something else and we talk about it. We talk about it, I repeated. Yes, no noble silences. No deciding what's best for the other person. I can do that. You're going to struggle. Almost certainly. So am I. I smiled. We're inconveniently well matched. The worst. Friday night, I waited outside baggage claim with a handwritten sign. Natalie Pierce, professional lemon cake slanderer. She came through the doors wearing her green coat, saw the sign, and stopped. Then she ran toward me. I barely had time to lower the cardboard before she threw her arms around my neck. I lifted her from the floor and she kissed me while travelers moved around us. Hi, she said against my mouth. Hi. I'm home. For 6 months, home required a shared calendar. Every other Sunday, one of us went to the airport. We learned which flights were usually delayed, how to eat dinner together over video calls, and how quickly romance could die if every conversation became logistics. So we protected it. I mailed her a disposable camera with instructions to photograph one beautiful thing each day. She sent me illustrated postcards featuring Felix the Fox complaining about Portland rain. I worked from her apartment 1 week a month. She recorded ridiculous advertisements in my booth when she was in Chicago. We fought, too. Once she accused me of saying fine when I clearly meant hurt. Once I rescheduled a visit without asking and discovered that being busy did not make me considerate. But we didn't disappear. We said the ugly, frightened things while they were still small enough to hold. By the following spring, Natalie had launched her own design practice. The Portland studio became her first major client, but Chicago was home. I kept my studio and built a remote editing setup in our second bedroom. It meant surrendering the office I'd imagined, but Natalie gave up half her workroom so I could have a proper sound booth. Our future bent in both directions. A year after the birthday party, Brooke and Camden got married. At the reception, Camden placed a familiar box on our table. Absolutely not, I said. Brooke grinned. It's tradition. Natalie drew a card. Choose someone, she read, and give them a dare. The people at our table began laughing before she even turned toward me. Natalie rested her chin on her hand. Owen. I reached into my jacket pocket. Her teasing expression vanished. I'm not accepting another kissing dare, I said as I stood. My last one became very expensive. She covered her mouth. I lowered myself onto one knee. The room erupted, but I only heard her breath catch. Natalie, you taught me that love isn't proven by guessing correctly. It's built by asking, answering, and choosing each other again when the answer is complicated. Tears spilled down her cheeks. So, this isn't a dare, I said, opening the ring box. It's the clearest question I've ever asked. Will you marry me? Yes. She didn't wait for me to stand. She dropped to her knees, wrapped her arms around me, and kissed me while our friends cheered. Later, beneath strings of warm lights, we danced with her hand against my heart and the ring shining on her finger. You know, she murmured, you could have just kissed me that first night. I did. You made a speech first. I was making sure. Natalie smiled and pulled me closer. This time, neither of us needed a dare. What would you have done if your ex looked at you during a party game and dared you to kiss her? Have you ever experienced something similar where one brave moment reopened